It took me 5 years to find the Gibson in this case. The story behind this guitar is so crazy. From the cops raiding Gibson, to Gibson almost having to close their doors. When I spoke to Gibson, they didn't even know for sure how many of these guitars were built. Today we go down the rabbit hole, the ever elusive, the ever mysterious, and one of the most beautiful Gibsons of all time. The 125th anniversary Gibson Supreme. So I'll start by showing you what's in this case. The 2019 Gibson 125th anniversary Supreme. With a 4A quilt maple top in this beautiful autumn burst. 490 and 498 pickups as you find in all the old school Supremes. With this ebony fretboard and abalone diamond inlay with a mother of pearl shadow. 125th anniversary right on the 12th fret. You will not see these inlays on any other Gibson. Absolutely gorgeous. You got the gold truss rod that says Les Paul. And unlike any other Supreme, you got the 125th anniversary, and no, not of Les Paul, from when Orville Gibson made the first Gibson. All of the 125th anniversary Supremes that are known
were numbered between 1 and 125.
This one, not numbered. This back looks better than the front. Look at that. The peekaboo on this thing. Look at that. It just totally just comes to life like magma. But this back, it's like the dark side of the moon, guys. Absolutely wild. You can see why I wanted one of these. And now Gibson has released all kinds of crazy Supremes, but this is from a time when the Supreme had no backplate and they put all the guts through the input jack. They stopped doing that because, as you could probably imagine, it costs a whole lot more money to make a carved back. It's also not exactly convenient if you want to change the pickups or a pot. Good luck. I joined a Gibson Supreme Facebook group, and when I first joined, the question was, how many 125th anniversary Supremes are really out there? As my Australian mate Kevin noticed, there is only up to number 27 out on the market. And supposedly, they made 125 of these guitars because everyone in the group that had one of these was numbered between 1 and 27. Where did the almost other 100 go? What's up with this thing? In 2008, Gibson bought a bunch of tapered ebony fretboard blanks. They sent all of these blanks to a company called Rockford Carving, who does a lot of the inlay work for Gibson. In this case, work on ebony fretboards so they can radius them. Fast forward to 2009, Gibson gets raided by the cops. My friend who was working at Gibson at the time tells me that the cops came in, evacuated the building, told my friend that he had to shut off all the cameras recording the police going through all of Gibson, ransacking the place so they can get the ebony. Why would the cops do that? And to this day, Gibson doesn't even know. What I've been told through the grapevine, I can't speak on behalf of Gibson, it was political. Which is also why Gibson at the time went to Richlight instead of ebony, because the cops showed up and took it like they were stashing cocaine. Except ebony. Rockford Carving still has all of these ebony blanks. Please don't tell the government. Don't let them know that we're holding your stash of ebony. Fast forward to 2013. HJ decides he wants to do the Double Diamond series because it was going to be the 120th anniversary of Gibson. The Diamond anniversary, 60. So Double Diamond, 120. And the idea was they were going to run
a 61 SG, a Les Paul, an ES335, a Flying V, a Firebird, an Explorer, and a Modern.
They have the same fretboard as the 125th anniversary Supreme, except they say 120th anniversary at the 12th fret. Those guitars that you see, those are the only ones they ever made, sitting in the vaults somewhere at Gibson. But we know that it exists. HJ decides, nah, you know what? There's no reason for that series. Let's put it on everything. So as you can see with this 2014 Les Paul Standard, you have the 120th anniversary right at the 12th fret. Here's my 2014 Les Paul Classic on everything. So when Gibson decides they want to cancel the order for this fretboard because there's no reason for the series, Rockford says, we made about 200 of these already. It's now past 2014. What are we going to do with these? In 2018, HJ decides, I want to do a 125th anniversary and have every division of Gibson have their own 125th anniversary guitar. So the idea that my friends had at Gibson USA, why don't we make a Supreme? Why don't we repurpose those badass fretboards that were supposed to be for the Double Diamond series, send them back to our friends at Rockford Carving and say, can you put 125 instead of 120 back onto these things? And can you send me some headstock overlays that say 125th anniversary? No problem, Gibson. Shortly after this, March 1st, 2018, Gibson files bankruptcy. Turns out HJ was trying to be a lifestyle brand, bought Philips and Tascam and all these other things that had nothing to do with guitars. Go figure, went into debt, $500 million, ready to have the bank make them some cement shoes. All these wood vendors, plating vendors would send stuff. They'd get paid 90 days later. By the time they got paid, this guitar could have already been made and shipped. All the vendors got completely screwed. You think that they want to send the best wood to Gibson? Because when you file Chapter 11, the bank tells everyone on your behalf, hold on, we're going to figure this out, and then gets you to pay back pennies on the dollar what you owe. Takes 2 to 3 billets to get to a nice top, a real nice top. A billet, it's a hunk of wood that you could turn into a guitar blank. They were supposed to do 125 of these guitars. That's 1,000 quilted billets that they would have had to go through to get it front and backs for something like this. When you're being stiffed as a wood vendor, you're gonna send your nice woods to PRS or Fender before you're gonna send it to the guys that are stiffing you. George didn't think that there was actually enough nice maple around Gibson to even make these guitars when they were being made. Late 2018, Gibson gets bought out by KKR. They say, we got to get rid of HJ. We got this dude, JC, who was from Levi Strauss, to come on in. They took on over Gibson. KKR paid back a bunch of the vendors, nicely considering the fact that they were going through Chapter 11. You want to get Grovers? You got to go to Grover. You want to get wood that looks like this? There's only so many vendors that you can go to in the freaking country that'll do this for you. So all the people that Gibson had kind of screwed when they were going belly up, these are the same people that KKR now has to go back to get Gibson going. Meanwhile, Gibson's just trying to keep the doors open. They're just trying to do the best they can to not close down this company that's been around for over 120 years. When Gibson starts winning back over creditors, they're now at a point where what are they going to do with wood that looks like this? They want to put it towards Les Paul standards. 59 reissues. Those are guaranteed to sell. So what are you going to do? Put this 4A top on a Supreme limited edition? Or just try to make what everyone's buying all the time so that you can keep your doors open? Are you going to sell 125th anniversary Supreme in 2020? No. To our knowledge, there was only 30 made. Until George Matthews Sr. for his 40th anniversary at Gibson gets gifted number 31. And he told me there aren't 125 of them. In fact, there's only 31, and I have the last one. Another employee that got to choose between 28 and 30, he took 28, thought it was the best one, put it in the box, Gibson sealed it, and he's not touching it because he knows he's got a time capsule someone's gonna really, really, really want. George got this guitar in 2020. Gibson's not gonna make him a guitar from 2019, so where did this come from? At any step of the process, if a guitar gets damaged, whether it gets nicked, the buffer heats up too much and scalds the thing, something happens. It gets taken off the line. This guitar was sitting in no man's land at Gibson and just had a little blemish, and he asked them, can I take this 125th anniversary I've seen floating around here and can we finish this for me? Now he has a COA with the guitar that really didn't have any number on it. It lived outside of the numbers because it was never finished in final assembly until George got it for his 40th anniversary. All my friends at the Gibson Supreme Club lost their minds. There's only 31 of 125. How cool is that? And what a crazy story. And I certainly wanted one. You just never see them on the market. And then all of a sudden, this one shows up. And it's weird because there's no number on it. Also something to bear in mind, guys. Look at this serial number. Gibson for years and years and years did first and fifth digit, meaning that it would be a 2014. When Henry came into the picture, he messed with the serializing system that Gibson had been doing for years and years and years. Let's put the date first. So in this case, 2019. But here's the weird thing. All of the known Gibson Supreme 125th anniversaries have the other serial number system, because at the very beginning of 2019, Jim DeCola, when KKR took over, said, that serial number system that HA had, that was the worst. We got to go back to what our history's been doing, 1 and 5. But not without a few getting out of the factory first with the 2019, with the 19 first. You have 1, and then the 5th digit is 4. But as we know, it's actually 19, and in this case, 0045 means it was built on the 45th day of the year of 2019, and it was number 667 of that date to be neck fit when they put the neck on the guitar. It also doesn't have a COA, and it's not numbered. And everybody in the Supreme group was like, is this real? Is this a fake? But I knew it was real. Ran the serial number at Gibson. Do you know what it came back as? A double cut Les Paul Jr. This is definitely a Gibson Les Paul Supreme 125th anniversary, and it's certainly not a double cut Les Paul Jr. Is it a prototype? Did it get taken before someone put the numbers on it? Why would it possibly say double cut Les Paul Jr.? And it turns out that when a Gibson is made, it starts off with a neck blank. And when they manually roll the serial number, which by the way, when they change the serial number date, it's changed manually by a human being. So there are times that people don't zero out the date. So there's a very good chance that there actually is a double cut Les Paul Jr. with the same serial number because something happened, someone forgot to change a number. It's possible. There's an RFID chip in between the neck and the fretboard. The person who's rolling on that serial number then programs that RFID chip to say it's going to be a Gibson Les Paul Supreme 125th anniversary, and they put in all kinds of different information. It's autumn burst, it's going to have 4A quilt, it's all in the chip. Prototypes have their own SKU that go to no man's land. I could bring this into Gibson, they put it up to their RFID chip system, and it turns out the SKU might say that it's the prototype SKU, which is very possible. We know that it predates all the other Les Paul Supreme 125th anniversaries that we know of. Could this be a prototype? So if you want to make a guitar at Gibson and you say, I want to do X, Y, and Z, do a small run of 3, 4, or 5 guitars, because there's a chance that there might be a blemish, something happens. It may take 3 guitars to get 1 guitar. The prototypes almost never leave Gibson, unless this was a guitar that was sent to the photographer to be shot for the website, which I checked, and this is definitely not the Supreme 125th anniversary that's on the Gibson website. Someone sent me a screenshot of the Supreme that went to NAMM. Neither George nor I could refute or corroborate that this was the same one. Or it could have been one that was actually sent to HJ directly to approve the entire line of Gibson Les Paul Supreme 125th anniversaries. They didn't write prototype on the headstock, but there's no question that this is from that first run that Henry ordered. So before they thought about even doing a COA, before they came up with the idea of doing only 125, they had to come up with the concept. So what you're looking at is maybe the very first Gibson 125th anniversary Supreme. The one that HJ himself said, yeah, let's make 125 of those, only to make 31. So the question is, how many of these guitars really exist? Well, we know there's 31 numbered ones. And check this out. This picture was sent to me. This is another 125th anniversary Supreme. Was neck fit in 2019, but something happened along the way because it doesn't have any finish on it. Basically sitting on the rack, waiting for somebody else to say, I want that for my anniversary. Gibson will no longer give away guitars to employees that are not being manufactured. You can't get a Supreme like this anymore. As many of you probably know, the new Supremes don't have the back. They don't have the 490, 498. They have Burstbucker Pros. They're a different guitar. So 31 numbered. We know at least 3 from that first run, 34. And there's one sitting in a rack. So I'm gonna say 35 to 37 of these guitars exist. And this is the first one. Why don't you smash that subscribe button already?